Are you a demon tired of the same old rat race of being tortured in hell? Well, nothing is more refreshing than a mortal body. That's right, you can go back. With our exclusive network of satanic cults, secluded cabins, haunted artifacts, and dumb teenagers, we'll give you access to what you crave. Human bodies. And when you cast back on the mortal coil, don't forget to really fuck shit up. I mean, really get in there and do some damage to that body and the bodies of others. Because you know what? Fuck those mortals.
Is this a metal thing?
Yes. Taste.
David, what is this?
Pretty thick.
Break.
I have to kill a lot of people. Just tell me what you want me to fuck.
I have big tits and a tiny vagina.
Oil me up, Daddy.
I can't believe that Bryce prefers big tits. Mistletoe alert. This is backcountry.
This guy was a real jerk.
How long can Ugo be pregnant?
Chomp, 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 chomp.
Oh, she's such a dick, David.
Okay, everybody, put on your corpse handling gloves.
Ew.
Hoodie Picasso. Horror.
Hello and welcome everyone to Horror Movie Talk Plus. That's right, folks. We've now transcended the boundaries of horror and sometimes cover other genres. We've got a great show today. We'll be reviewing Talk to Me, so actually a horror movie. Make sure you rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes. Full video available on YouTube. Don't be a square. Be sure to share. Also, check out patreon.com/horrormovietalk, the equivalent of the adult section at your video rental store. If you want to add your pee to the community pool, go to horrormovietalk.com or call five.
What a wrong number.
What an
Stupid
idiot. Call 682-253-4468 and leave us a voicemail. As always, we have Fart Simpson crammed into the production booth. I'm Bryce. Across from me sits Island Boy David Day, and returning once again is Jordyn Wilson, which I don't have a nickname for yet.
It'll come to you.
Meet me in St. Louis, Jordyn.
Okay.
I don't know.
Oof,
We'll work on
really
it.
botching it. We botched this one.
We'll workshop
Hey,
it.
by the way, yeah, thank you so much for coming back, Jordyn. This is a big deal for us. It's so rare that people enjoy it enough to say yes again.
Well, to be fair, you weren't here, so we'll give her a chance with David and see how that works.
True. Oh yeah, I could botch that one. By the way, thank you to new patron. We got to thank you, Heather D. Thanks for hopping on board, getting part of all that digital goodness that we enjoy so much over here on our Patreon.
Yeah, thank you so much. And Marissa also joined in August.
Oh, it's so new it didn't even show up.
Okay, so we start every show giving a brief review on our score for the movie. We score on a scale of 1 to 10. After we give our score, we'll get into spoilers and take a deeper dive into what we liked and hated about the film. Later on, we'll have you talk to me with Horror Movie Horrors, where we check our voicemail. Okay. You were so excited that it was going to be a new bit, David, and then I...
Oh no, I really like the horror segment because I at this point it's become I like the concept of bashing people who call the show. Hey, idiot! Hey, shorten it up, there, guy.
Okay, so Talk to Me can be found in theaters maybe by the time this releases. I don't know. It's been out for about a month, so it's probably short for the world. Talk to Me is about a young group of friends who get wrapped into the latest social media trend, demonic possession. An acquaintance came into possession of a creepy ceramic hand, and if they shake hands with it and say some magic words, they can see the dead and even experience being possessed for a minute and a half. As you would expect, it's a great time. That is, until Mia, played by Sophia Wilde, gets in contact with her dead mom and can't seem to shake the visions of the dead, even when not using the hand. In the end, we learn two things. Number one is demons lie, And number 2, Australians need more parental supervision, just overall. They all have parents, and nary a parent is seen, except for like 1% of the movie.
Oh, you know what? This is a good time. I'm going to interrupt you between your synopsis and your review. It seems like it hasn't been, like we said it once and we just expected everyone to understand or listen to that episode, but it seems like sometimes there is some confusion among the audience. When we made the switch to Horror Movie Talk Plus, it was kind of spurred on by the fact that I just kind of couldn't handle horror movies anymore. They just kind of gave me the bad feels. And so I've stopped watching them. And so on these episodes where we cover particularly like heavy horror movies, like I managed with The Village and that kind of thing. But these heavy ones, I don't know, it kind of brings up some PTSD baloney that I think I've identified correctly now. And so that's kind of big part of the reason that the plus, we've added the plus there, so just FYI, because we've gotten some questions about that. That's why that's happening, and I hope that's okay with everybody. But I really like, I kind of still like hearing about them. So there you go.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you this much: this one would be fucking rough for you. It does not pull any punches at all.
And it's set in Australia.
Set in Australia, so, they're used to scary things. Yeah, this is a really great movie. It is a rehashing of familiar demon possession tropes, but it has its own unique vibe, as the kids would say. What hits hardest is the intense scenes of violence. I was definitely squirming in my seat. I was hugging myself in one scene and like turning to the side to avoid the scene, and it holds on to those moments a little longer than most. It's like a more sadistic Evil Dead movie, especially the most recent Evil Dead Rise. It feels like it goes a little harder even, just because there's more contrast between the sadistic violence and just everyday life, whereas in the Evil Dead Evil Dead Rise, or is it Rises?
Rise.
In Rise, it flips the switch and goes to full on, everyone's in danger for the last 3/4 of the movie. And this one feels like there's a chance of hope. There's a chance. There is a juxtaposition between empathy and apathy throughout the movie that really is interesting. We have some fleshed out characters that love and care for each other. However, it's contrasted with the teen group dynamic around these seances that are full of apathy in search of novelty. It's the dynamic you see in internet videos where someone gets really, really hurt and you just see people popping out their cameras instead of helping. World Star! It's got a lot of World Star vibes in the seance scenes. I would have liked a little more fleshing out of the father-daughter relationship that's kind of suggested that it's the core of the movie, and they just don't really have many scenes together. I think if they added a little more to that, it would have added some more impact to the tragedy that's laid out at the end of the movie. There's a lot unsaid. The good thing about it is they trust the audience. A lot of it goes unsaid. There's not a lot of hand-holding, which I don't think is a bad thing, but I think there should have been at least another scene or two showing the dynamic between Mia and her father and explain a little more about why she's wanting to avoid being around him. And the other interesting thing is there's strong undertones of drug culture. The destructive yet addicting effects of the hand have parallels to casual hard drug use turning into something that ruins your life. The ending is, I think it has all the signatures of a classic horror movie ending, like ones that stick with you really well, because It's perfect for the tone of the movie. It sticks with you as being dreadful, but still has a very strong resolution. I honestly couldn't find much fault with this movie. For some reason, like, it's one of those movies where it does everything right, and yet, like, I'm still not blown away by it. I think it does rely a little bit on, some. I mean, the premise is very familiar. It adds a little bit, but not. It doesn't blow me away. And a couple things needed to be fleshed out a little more, but still a great movie. I give it a score of a 9 out of 10. What did you think, Jordyn?
That's a high score. I really enjoyed it. I will say I like how you brought up, like, there's not a lot of hand holding. I almost wanted a little more hand holding. Like, I wanted the lore. And there was kind of like some stories, like, I can't remember the character's name. Well, we won't get into spoilers yet. Where they're talking about, like, the origination of the hand, and there's, like, some conflict there about where it comes from, and I just found myself really curious, like, wanting the backstory. But I think there will be a backstory. I think this is probably going to be a franchise. Like, I could see multiple sequels here.
Yeah.
But I totally agree with you. Wanting more about the main character and her dad and understanding, like, that dynamic more probably would have made the ending a little stronger to me. But I loved the ending. It's one I won't forget. And yeah, I'll probably give it an 8 out of 10. Would have liked a little more backstory of the hand and the power. I mean, there's definitely an unlocking at the end, which made me even more curious.
Yeah. No, it does set itself up for sequels very easily. Like, yeah, telling the backstory or, yeah, the origins of it, but also, like, going forward, like, what happens to Mia, if, like, the after effects of that, or, how that carries on.
I'm curious. Okay, so it sounds like this is like a possession movie. Like, would that be the purview that this falls under, is possession?
Yeah.
And so, there's kind of like slow burn possession movies. I don't know if you consider The Exorcist to be slow burn, but I kind of would. And then there's Evil Dead, which is the, throw everything at the wall and just see what sticks, kind of like crazy possession. So does it fall on that extreme end of just like bonkers?
Well, it's interesting because it plays with both of them, because it's a transactional possession. So it's like, when they get possessed, it's intentional and they're meaning to do it.
That's so fucking weird, dude.
So it's full on in the moment. But then there's also a slow burn of Mia experiencing the after effects after she kind of breaks the rules that are set out. It's kind of also like a Gremlins type movie where they just state some rules. And say, don't get the hand wet after midnight, or else I don't know, bad things. And so, like,
Mom, how would I get the hand wet after midnight? Honestly,
when they break the rules, you're like, she broke it, and then there's like the long term effects of that, and that's a little bit of a slow burn. So it is interesting that they kind of mix both.
And Bryce, you mentioned,
what were you
like,
gonna say, Jordyn?
I was just gonna say, Bryce, you mentioned the drug culture in the film and the peer pressure, and like, I almost think it's like they're doing a gateway drug with like the paranormal, like by using the hand. So it's like it really couples that slow burn with like intense scenes of violence and rage almost. It's really interesting. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I mean, kind of the one of the tropes that you see in other possession movies or like paranormal movies is the Ouija board, the Luigi board,
Waweg
the
board.
Ouija board, and like in those ones, like it can go either way. Whereas like, well, it's telling you outright like this is definitely someone controlling the board, but usually they still try to slow roll it until it gains more, until the spirit gains more power or something. But yeah, in this one it just goes full force for a minute and a half, and then they boot it out. So it is an interesting concept and wild that like that they wrap it around like teens are just gonna fuck around with this. Of course they are. Like it's not like adults that are like discovered some ancient like artifact in a Chinese antiquities store or something like that, and then like came back oblivious to the power of it. It's no. The kids saw it on TikTok and they're like, "I want to do that.
Oh.
I want to be possessed. That looks awesome." So it's a interesting dynamic for the movie.
One more question for Jordyn here. The last episode, you filled in for me like I wasn't even here, and that was on the review of The Boogeyman. Now, how does this stack up against The Boogeyman?
Good question. I liked The Boogeyman, but I will caveat that I'm a huge Stephen King fan, so I think that kind of helped it out with my score. Saw a lot of resemblances, actually. Grief being kind of like a main theme of the movie, both of these, and it kind of excuses characters, I think, or I don't know. That's kind of a discussion point for us, maybe. Like, Mia's going through this grief. She's doing things, stupid things, that makes it really hard to, like, feel sorry for her. And similar to, what was it?
You know, the name of the character from The Boogeyman.
Exactly. Like, she had lost her mom. So they were going through something similar, and, yeah, I think there it is. Thank you. I think these are both great movies for, kids, like, that age, 13 to, 17, people that are starting to go to those parties or can identify with that coming of age, like, growing up. I think a lot of the same crowd would appreciate this movie.
Gotcha. Does it feel like an A24 movie?
Yeah, I mean, it feels like bodies, where it's like it's tapping into the youth culture, the kids.
But I think it's a beautiful movie. It was very well shot. There are several scenes that I was like, the color's nice here, And there's that I thought the sound was really great. I don't know about you, Bryce, but there were a few times, and I didn't even watch it in Dolby the second time, but the first time I did, and it was alarming. I don't want to get into spoilers, but it was just incredibly well done. You can tell there are some good eyes on this. And I had also heard that the brothers that made it, they had pitched it to several studios, and a lot of them wanted to change the ending, and A24 was the only one that let them keep it the way they wanted. So thank you, A24.
Yeah, that would have been, any other ending would have been a cop-out, I think.
Totally.
Like that makes sense that they would have held out for that.
Isn't it weird that studio execs are, like, their first inclination is to cop out? It's like, it's a little too real. Can we cop out, please? It's like, beep, 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 beep. Just like pressing that button. Or like Ralph when something bad goes wrong.
It's like, hey, guys, people don't like feeling bad, so, like, don't make people feel bad. Like, can you imagine what the studio notes would have come for Requiem for a Dream? It's like, why can't they all be nice?
What was Aronofsky's last movie? He just had a movie, didn't he? Oh, it was The
Yeah.
Whale. Good.
The Whale, yeah.
Holy shit. Oh, that might have been the straw that broke my back. That was pretty rough.
Yeah. Aronofsky is not. He became hit or miss, and then he's been pretty consistent for the last couple movies.
I don't know what's the miss. Like what which one people don't like.
The Tree of Life one.
The Cancer, The Fountain. Yeah.
The Fountain was a miss for me. I had high expectations for it though. People say Noah was a miss, but I really liked it. But yeah, it's just not. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, you know what's not a miss? Skipping commercials. If you want to skip commercials, go sign up on our Patreon at a certain level. You don't have to listen to commercials anymore, and you get advance access to episodes as soon as they're edited. We thank our patrons for supporting the show. They can't hear this because it's going to get cut out because they pay us. So you get to sit here and listen to us. Thank them because you're cheap. Also, if you want to support the show, go to horrormovietalk.com/shop. And you'll find our logo tees and some stickers. Check out our artist, Dustin Goebel. He's a professional artist. You can find him on Instagram at dgoebel00. That's DGOEBEL00. And reach out to him for commissions. He'll probably say no because he's very busy, but if you force him to take your money, he'll do some great work for you. If you want to call and leave us a voicemail and listen to your voice on a future episode of Horror Movie Talk Plus, call 682-253-4468. And we're going to be checking our voicemail later in the episode. So let's see what that's like. Again, thanks for listening. Let's get on with the spoilers. So, the movie starts out real strong. We're not shown like any context or anything, and then are subjected to a brutal murder-suicide via knife. And all it gives us is there's this brother coming in to help his brother that looks like he's just wasted on drugs, like and hallucinating or, having a psychotic episode. And the brother that's in the episode says something to the effect of, "Mom said you were going to hurt people." And then he immediately, they go out in a group of teens, young adults, and they're all like, super amused at how wasted this kid is, and the brother is yelling at him, and like basically mid-sentence gets stabbed in the chest by his brother, and then the brother stabs himself in the head. Does he stab himself in the head?
The eye.
Yeah, the eye. Okay.
I was guessing from the angle. I'm guessing eye.
Yeah. So that's how the movie starts out. Pretty intense.
Was this person high on something or just drunk or?
He looked like he was having a psychotic episode. I mean, you're going into a movie that if you've seen the trailer, you're like, oh, he's possessed. So
yeah.
But if you're coming in blind, it just looks like a very, very disturbed person.
He says brother breaks down the door to get into his brother at this party, and he says, "Can you see them? They're in here." And that's when he's like dragging he looks like he's stoned or just really tripping, dragging him out, and all the kids like phones up, like they see the viral moment, like a lot of commotion, and suddenly stab 2 minutes, brutal death. So
it really sets the tone for the movie because you have the social media whoring apathy.
God, I hate that.
Of all the kids with their phones up, and you have the brother yelling at him for like, why aren't you helping my brother? Like, put your phones down. You're terrible people. And then tragedy, which is basically the formula for the rest of the movie. We're introduced to Mia and kind of the people around her. So they're the main characters are Mia. She's right behind me right here. Hi, Mia. And
the hand, which is behind me right here. Mm-hmm. You can see.
Wow, I didn't write. So you go on IMDb and you see all these names.
No,
and
listen.
You don't actually know
I've got my notes.
who these people are. Okay, Jordyn, why don't you run us through who all the characters are?
Okay, we've got Mia. We've got Riley, who is Mia's best friend Jade's little brother. So those are the main three we see right away. Little love triangle between Mia, Jade, and Daniel, who is dating Jade, but he was Mia's boyfriend 3 years ago. So that's important for later.
Right.
Yeah. I'd say those are the main ones, right?
And yeah, that's right. And like kind of the interesting dynamic is Daniel is super conservative Christian, apparently. It's kind of questionable whether like it's because he's conservative Christian or if he's just really not into Jade, but they haven't even kissed yet. And so like like when her mom is super concerned about him coming over, she's like, I wish, you know. Jade's mother is Sue, played by Miranda Otto, which you might recognize from the Lord of the Rings movie. She was, what's her name? Eowyn, you know, the same woman's name for everyone in Lord of the Rings. She's the one that kills the voice of Saruman. Is that what it is? It's very confusing. She doesn't kill Saruman.
No, I am no man. Yeah.
Oh, she kills the.
She kills
no,
the
that's the
Lich King.
The Lich King. That's right.
The Witch King? Lich King? The Witch King? The Lich King.
The Witch Lich King.
I
And then, like, tangentially, Mia has her father, Max, which we see for, like, half of 2 scenes early on in the movie, and then not at all until towards the end of the movie. So, yeah, those are the main characters and the dynamic. So, like, this whole group where it's, like, Mia, she's kind of latched on to Jade's family and really uses them as, like, a framework for her mental health. And it goes unsaid why, like, she can't be around her father, or, like, why that is awkward. But we have, like, this really empathetic group. And then it basically shows Mia is, like the characterization, Mia is a little more willing to take risks and have, you know, more fun around drugs and stuff. Jade is relatively innocent and, you know, kind of passive. And then Riley is like a young kid that's on the cusp of getting involved in, you know, kind of older teen stuff. So like his friends is selling cigarettes but he doesn't want to smoke. And like, he's going from pre-teenhood to teenhood, basically, and it's that situation where you want to be with the big kids a little more and like participate in what they're doing before you're ready, or even the teens are like, yeah, you're probably too young for this. And so that's the dynamic there. And then there's like a couple other people that are basically the owners of this hand. There's Haley, played by Zoe Tarakis, and they basically got this hand from someone else. Or wait, was Haley the owner of it, or was it the other? Was it the other guy?
I think it was Haley. She or they had the hand, and then the other guy had the house that they were having the parties at.
Right.
So it was like this joint venture.
A joint hand venture.
Yes.
Yeah. Quick.
Yeah, so there was it was a joint venture, and like basically they've been exploiting this hand by, you know, getting invited to parties around it and like supplying it. I don't know if did they sell it at all? Like did me and them have to pay for them to come over, or was it literally just we'll throw a party and you'll be the most popular one there by bringing this hand?
Yeah, I don't think there was any monetization, but I did pick up when Mia does it. Haley, obviously they're recording, and Haley says that was the best one yet. Like, so I think that was what they were getting out of it. They were getting this viral content.
Right.
Quick question. We're all owners of small children here, right? You you have kids, right, Jordyn?
Yep.
How old?
8 and 12.
8 and 12. Okay, so this question applies a little bit more to you than to me, and kind of to Bryce a little bit. Phones. When do they get them? How do we do this? What's this all about? You know, like Bryce, have you gotten Penny a phone yet? Will you?
No.
Jordyn, have you gotten your kids' phones yet? Will you?
Well, one. My oldest has a phone. Basically, we got it for her because everyone in her grade had one. She was having, I don't want to go too deep into it, but she was having a hard time connecting with people. You know, a lot of these kids are connecting. Actually, we kind of curbed the usage. Like, I've got some really strict, I used to use an app to monitor only the things that I needed to see. Like, there were certain alerts. Don't trust that. Those do not work. So now we have like the screen time set up to only allow, you know, and I'm really conflicted about it because I've seen the studies like with Instagram, especially with teen girls and social media, but we're really only on Instagram 1 hour per day. That lets her see her little K-pop groups. She's a K-pop stan. So, but yeah, it's hard. You don't want them to not have that connection to their peers if all their peers are having phones and conversations, but then also they don't really have the tools to navigate the digital world unless, you know, you're sending them to therapy and having these conversations.
Yeah.
I think the most important
tough.
thing is like teaching them how to set boundaries and knowing what a good friend, what being a good friend is and what being a good friend isn't.
Man, that's a horror movie right there, dude. It's the whole thing just creeps me out. I'm like, how are you guys going to do it, Bryce?
I mean, we are so scared of the cell phone age. I mean, because we're horrible at it. Both me and Aaron are on TikTok way too much, you know. And so, like, we're not good examples to our kids. So once they get a phone, it's all going to be downhill. But yeah, I think we'll probably wait until Penny is like begging for it and saying like, everyone has one and I can't do all these things without it.
Hold off.
I mean, I'm tempted to give her. Yeah, I'm tempted to give her a flip phone and be like, "Hey, look, it texts. Use the 9 key. It's great." But I don't know. It's weird. I mean, my kids are on the computer all the time. So like that's where we're at, and we're teaching them, you know, digital safety and responsibility there, and checking in and finding when they're kind of weaseling out of some of the rules and putting them in check. But yeah, I think the phone, that's such a big leap. And what's disturbing is the schools use them now. Like, that's what blows my mind is like,
what?
In high school, they don't take away their phones. They let them have which is like,
what?
Wild to me.
So here's Wolfram Alpha. Go nuts. Like,
yeah, I mean, we couldn't even have Worm on our TI-86s, you know.
Yeah.
And these kids have an iPhone. It's wild to me.
here's
that,
Chat
like,
GPT. Have fun.
I think
like-
some teachers like have a policy where you leave them at the front of the class, you know, but like these kids have the phones, but like not just that, but I think the teachers use them in class a lot. They say, look up on your phones this, you know, or, you know, do this with your phones.
The surveys.
And so
like the
on
keyword.
one hand, it's more, yeah. On one hand, it's interactive and it's like engaging. On the other hand, it's like, you know, you're shooting yourself in the foot, allowing them to have like the ultimate novelty to do anything else all day.
Not just that, but I mean, really, as a teacher, you should be fucking extremely worried because Wolfram Alpha has taught me more about math than any person. Like, just by taking a picture of an equation, it'll be like, well, here's how you do it, and here's why, and here's how it works. And it's like, whoa, that's way better than Mr. Norton, okay? Way better.
Right. or Chat GPT, you just like write every essay for you.
Yeah. It's
Like, I don't know what teachers are going to do. They're just going to be like, unless you have like a strong voice, I'm not going to know whether you wrote this or not. So really develop a persona in your writing or else you're going to get 50% marks on anything you turn in.
Okay, well, we've all identified the real thing to be scared of in this movie.
Right. Phones.
Golly Moses. This has got me. This is.
But I
really
mean, that is the scary thing about phones to me is like the apathy and the disengagement with reality or the physical
Yeah.
world. You can just be like, oh, that's not a person. That's just an avatar.
Now
you
there's
know?
a lens in front of my face. I'm not really here anymore.
Yeah. Even if you're standing right in front of them, you can just look at your phone and be like, oh, that's just Brittany. I know her from social media, you know?
And I kind of think, like, going back to the film, maybe that's why it makes them so comfortable, like, doing this. Because they're recording it. Like, there's a screen in front of them. It feels less real. Like, they're doing it for the novelty of it versus fucking with some paranormal stuff. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting a good reel going. Yeah.
Yeah, the disengagement or the, I don't know what the word for it is. I mean, apathy of consuming life over a phone through the screen of a phone is like really interesting because their reaction to all this is not even like amazement or like fear or wonder. It's like, oh, I saw this on social media. Like it instantly like loses any kind of wonder because
It's that, like, base level engagement with novelty.
right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. It's like, oh, I know this. Oh, man, maybe now I get to do this thing with this thing.
Yeah, I mean, if you just lived your life in the 90s and you saw someone jump on a trampoline and their knees bent the wrong way and then they got in a tragic accident, you'd be like, well, that is the most impactful thing I've seen for my entire life and for the remainder of it. And now I'm like, oh, there's a subreddit for that. I look at those all day.
Bryce just watches industrial lathe accident after industrial lathe accident over and over and over and over again.
It's true.
And that same trampoline bit just can't get him off like it used to.
Yeah, it's true. So it's like you see someone possessed by a demonic entity, and it's like, oh yeah, it was, yeah. I went on R Shake the Hand, and I love this shit. Like, and so they come into it in real life, and they have no respect for it at all. And it's the same thing. Like it's around drug culture. It's like you can have all the horror stories of like heroin and all the lives it's ruined. But when you're kids and you're like, oh yeah, Johnny got fucked up last week, and I saw it on TikTok, like, but he's fine now. I can take it.
Hey, Jordyn, what's the deal with the name? Why is it called Talk to Me?
so the rules of the hand. Haley brings it out at the party. The person who is going to be possessed or play the little game, they get belted up to a chair, and they put their hand on the hand, and they say, "Talk to me." And at that moment, they see, a ghost or a demon, or they see it and it is jarring. Like, I wouldn't say it's like super gory. It's just kind of gross. Most of the spirits that you see are just a little off-putting. And the camera work is good too. Like, flash to what you're looking at, and it's quick, and it's like, oh shit. And then the next thing that they say is, "I let you in." And the character or the person who's doing it, their head falls back, their eyes, like their pupils dilate, and yeah, they're possessed, and they have 90 seconds to do it. Oh, I forgot the ritual part, Bryce, where they light the candle.
Right.
So before they grab the hand, they light the candle. That lets the spirit, opens the portal,
It
basically.
opens the door.
Right.
It's the same thing with seances. I think that's kind of what they've said about seances. You light the candle to open the door, and you blow it out to close it.
Yes.
It's just a safety measure,
Yeah.
Added layer of safety, apparently. 'Cause,
Right.
So when they're
ghosts don't like the dark.
when they're back,
It's an OSHA approved hand.
there we go. They're back and they're tripping, and then they kind of come to, and it's like the spirit is in them. Like, there's one point where Mia is like singing in French, because whatever has possessed her is, singing in French, and it's like, yeah, they get different things. Like, that's a lighthearted one, but there are some that are like not so great. Telling Riley, the kid, that he likes you, he's gonna split you in two or something like that, or he's gonna split you.
Right.
So they don't know
What
what
do they
they
mean by that?
I was wondering. I was like,
There's a lot of ways you can take it. It could be good, could be bad. It depends.
Did the ghost also say that? There's a lot of ways you could take it.
but they have 90 seconds. They let go of the hand. Usually they have to pry it out of the person's hand, and they blow out the candle. They go over 90 seconds. They want to stay.
Yeah, the insinuation is if you go over 90 seconds, like the spirits that possessing you want to stay, and they might stay. You might lose your chance to expel them. And then the second rule, which is a really good rule, is don't die while you're possessed, because then...
Really, that's the first rule in life.
True.
So
But
now it's the second rule.
definitely, it's worse if you die when you're possessed, because then you can't come back.
They keep
Not like when you normally die. Oh, they keep you. That's what it is.
Okay, one more question about how this whole thing works. You grab the hand, you say, "Talk to me." Now, is this... Okay, there's like two different kinds of VR experiences, right? There's fully in the headset, right? Which is...
Right.
You're just... It's the kind you see when you see people like leaping into their screen, or like jumping into somebody. It's because they can't see what's going on around them. And then there's that like augmented reality VR where you can see the room around you. Are we talking like augmented reality, or are we talking like full VR?
Well, the first level where they just say "talk to me" is they become Haley Joel Osment in Sixth Sense. Like they can see dead people.
Augmented reality.
Augmented reality, and which is now that I'm thinking of it, they have zero interest in that level. Just seeing dead people or seeing ghosts around them.
Yeah, that's
or
enough
talking.
for me. Yeah, David sees that and he's like, "Okay, all right, whoa, hey."
Like, you could talk to them, and just see them. Like, they have zero interest in talking to the dead people. They have 100% interest on being possessed and fucked up by a demon,
Kids.
and that's level 2. Level 2 is, full immersion. You lose yourself in the possession. And from what I can understand, they can still understand what they've done or what they said. Like, it's kind of like a Get Out, where they're in the sunken place.
Yeah.
Like, they can see what's going on, because when they come to, they're like, delete that fucking video. I don't want those things that I said out there. So yeah, I mean, we see the first one with Mia and them, and there's kind of an allusion to the demons really taking a shine to what's his name, Riley, because he's a young kid, and demons love the young. They're it's
Not a good look for demons, I gotta say.
a lot of Jared Fogels in the afterlife waiting to use this hand. And so it's like really menacing. And then I think it is in the first like instance where Mia is doing it and they let it go over 90 seconds. Like they can't pry the hand out of her fast enough. So it's like this little like,
Yeah, they broke the rule on the
should
first.
we be worried?
Yeah, they broke the rule on the first
Yeah.
time our main character did it, and I was like, well, there we go.
Kids are dumb and irresponsible. That's the lesson is like, yeah, don't let teenagers be responsible for something with ultimate paranormal power, because they're going to fuck it up. Yeah, and they even state they went a little bit over. And then throughout the movie, like Mia is slowly like realizing that she can still see things. She sees like reflections of her mom, and a little bit more gets unfolded around her mom, where the story goes, her mom accidentally overdosed on anxiety medicine. Was that
I
what
think
it
it was
was?
sleeping pills.
Sleeping pills. She accidentally overdosed on sleeping pills, which, on the surface is like, I don't think you can really accidentally do that. And so there's this question of like, did she accidentally do it or was it a suicide? And that's kind of the question hanging over Mia and her dad's relationship, because her dad told her that it was an accident. And so Mia has this strong yearning to like understand why her mom died, and the demons that are hanging on to their hold of her are utilizing this. And this is one of those tropes that goes unsaid, but like I really appreciate, because almost every possession movie mentions the scripture in the Bible about possession. So like, there's a big story in the Bible of Legion, which is this demon or horde of demons that possess this body.
A legion
And-
of demons, if you will.
Yeah, a legion of demons. And I can't remember if it's the apostles or Jesus. I think it's Jesus comes to him and he comes to cast out the demons, and they say, "We are legion." And then when they're cast out, they're cast into a herd of pigs. I don't know what the group of pigs would be called. A snort of pigs.
Yeah,
And-
that's a good one. I like that.
And they immediately
A stink of pigs?
Yeah. And they immediately jump off a cliff and kill themselves.
Yeah.
And so, like, anyone that grew up in, like, a conservative Christian household, like, associates possession with that story in particular, that, like, it's not just a demon you have to worry about. It's, like, a group of them that really want to, fuck shit up, and they're not even interested in staying. They're interested in dying, and killing themselves, whatever body they have. And so it's never like quoted or mentioned, but that is definitely an influence on this story, because
That's the best kind of lore, is half mentioned, just the tip, just a little bit of what you're kind of like. What did they say? Did they say, what was it? Yeah, that's the good stuff.
yeah, and they're demons are dishonest, we find out, because like they're preying on Mia and telling her like what she wants to know, but at the same time you realize like that's not really her mom, or they're not telling her the truth, because the mom is that she's seen in visions is saying, oh yeah, it was a total accident, and then her dad eventually reveals that it was a suicide because he pulls out a note her suicide note where the mother apologizes, and he's never shown that to Mia. And then the demons are like, no, don't listen to him. It's look at me, I'm your mom, and goes on, and she, tragically believes the demons, and they have a hold on her. The bulk of the movie, though, is, or like the turning point of the movie is the second session where Riley asks to partake, and his sister is like, no, absolutely not, and then for some reason leaves the room. Oh wait, a lot of stuff happens in that second one. I think the Riley's boyfriend goes under possession, and the demons reveal that he's really not into her at all, and might really like Mia, I think.
Wait, Jade's boyfriend goes under and says...
Yeah, Jade's boyfriend.
Well, the person that possesses him says he doesn't like you, basically, and...
Yeah.
There's like a scene where
he's disgusted.
Making out with the dog.
What? Whoa.
That's right.
Whoa. Hang on.
Like the boyfriend like says basically the possessed boyfriend, the demon says like he's disgusted by you, but then like starts moaning very, very sexually and like looking around at any possible outlet for coming, basically, and the closest is this English bulldog, and so he's making out with this English bulldog.
Is that the one with the big high nose?
It's like Adam Sandler's bulldog. It's the stout.
Oh, okay. Wow. Ew.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he comes to...
Can't even make out with a hot dog?
Yeah. He comes to and is like petrified that it's going to get shared, and I think that is why
Jade.
not Riley, Jade leaves, but Riley, her brother, is interested in going under. She says absolutely not, and then Riley is like begging Mia to give him permission because apparently, he sees her as an authoritative figure. And she's like, come on, just like 40 seconds. It's not going to be a big deal. And so Riley does it against the advice of his sister. And this is the turning point of the movie because immediately the demons are like, time to fuck this shit up. Like he immediately starts like banging his head on the table like super violently, and like the most disturbing thing is he starts like grabbing at his eye to like pull his eye out, and they're trying to pry his arms away, and there's like I'm pretty sure there's like a squishing sound that sounds like he just popped his eyeball. I'm like, it was so disturbing. I don't think he did, like, but the after effects of this night, like he basically almost kills himself, and Jade runs in right at the last second, like before he's gonna have like this last bludgeoning on the corner of a table, and like puts her hand out, and he threw his head down so hard that he breaks her fingers on that hand. Oof. And so like it's a snap back to reality.
Oh, there goes gravity.
Because now for the rest of the movie, Riley's in the hospital, just horrifically injured on his face, and
all kind of self-inflicted.
Yeah, all of them self-inflicted, and like all the teens are like, "Fuck, this doesn't look good." But it's all videotaped, or they have it all on video, so they can show the cops like he did this all to himself, like no one beat him up, and they're like, well, can't charge you with anything. But then also the parents and the cops don't seem to care that much about the demonic possession, which is wild to me. Like, I don't know why this wouldn't be a national news story or international news story.
Imagine if your kid did that. Like, you'd be like, what the fuck happened? Oh, and you grabbed the hand? What made you think that was a good idea?
Right.
And then
I mean,
you'd
there's
be-
not even a writing off of it for like mass hysteria or anything. They're just like parents are just mad, you know.
I think
What was that, Jordyn?
they thought it was drugs. So they thought it was drugs. They did the drug test. It came back clean because they did the drug test, and this was what kind of broke Mia, I think, seeing Riley like down bad. And she had latched
What
on
is that? What did you just say?
She saw Riley like down bad. Like not good. Like he was struggling in the hospital. She went in there. Mom kind of freaked out and was like, "What are you doing here?" And I guess because Jade, sister, had told Mom that Mia had experimented with drugs in her grief with her mom's passing. So Mom was aware of that. She thought, Mia had brought drugs into the house. And so I think there was a lot of like questioning. They get the drug test back. Wasn't drugs. And I think they talked it up as like he had a break. He had a mental break.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's wild. Like if you were to see this, like if I were to see my kid do this, like in reality, I don't think I'd think of actual demonic possession. I'd be like, it's a mass hysteria event kind of thing. Like
Totally.
They're caught up in the moment and then having a psychological break, which can happen, But yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. So like that's the stakes. And then, so now they're trying to, cause I don't think that's the thing with Riley is they break the rules there too, because no one blew out the candle at the end. And I think he was in there for longer than 90 seconds. Like it was a huge clusterfuck. And so it's kind of, you're shown that he's still possessed, like very much possessed, way more than Mia. Once he comes to in any fashion, he's still trying to kill himself, like, and violently. And so they're trying to save Riley or, expel the demons. And I think the Haley, the guy that owns the person that owns the hand is like, well, eventually they lose power. Like he's young, he's strong. It'll eventually fade off without any intervention. And Mia is being told by the demons, like, "Oh no, you got to save your friend." You got. And so
I'm noticing as you're telling this whole thing, I'm realizing that this is how phones work. Like this whole thing is how fucking social media works in your head when you have a phone. And you're just like, looking at all the shit and you're like, oh, and then like people are having a good time over here and you're like, what the fuck is that? Why didn't I get to go to that thing? Why they didn't think to tell me? And then you put it down and then your head's just working on that. It's just like, oh no, you know what? I bet what happened is, and then this happened, and then that, blah, 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 blah. And then you're just all amped up, or at least I am. I'm just like, what the fuck was that? And so you kind of get possessed by this, like, this fucking thing that's like, oh, this fucking shit. They didn't think to tell me, like, oh, I'm not going to have a good time. Like, I thought we were friends. And then by the time you get to the person, you're like, what the fuck? And they're like, what? Huh? What? And they're dealing with their own shit. Everybody's got their own little demon that's talking to them about all this bullshit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. So Mia's being influenced by, like, the demons, and she, like, feels that they need to close the door. And there's another scene that is pretty intense, which is Mia. Remind me how this goes, Jordyn.
Got my notes.
They get the hand, and she's trying to get the demon to talk to Riley, who's unconscious in the bed. So she's like propping up his hand, and she's saying like, "Talk to him."
Yeah.
And it's just not working. It's not doing anything. Like they do a couple candle lights and blows out, and nothing happens. And then
she wanted to see if she could see Riley. Like, so she did it.
Right.
She said, talk to
Yeah,
me,
so
Riley.
yeah, because she's trying to talk to Riley, and then there's another dead soul or whatever,
A child.
and then a little girl, and Mia saying, "Show me Riley." Like, can I see where? And she's like, "I can show you Riley." And then the ghost says, "I let you in," which is like you don't see coming at all. And then so Mia is sucked into, I guess, that ghost perspective, which puts you directly basically in hell. And she sees like just a horde of demons like ripping apart Riley and like just torturing and like flaying and, you know, whatever you associate with hell. It's implied that's happening to Riley right now. And then she gets taken out, comes back to reality. And so the stakes are she's seen what's happening to Riley, and she's even more wanting to get him out. And everyone else is like, just leave him alone. Just like, this isn't worth playing with anymore. Like, and so she's all in and also being basically brainwashed by these demons. It's just really cool. Like the mechanics of it and the rules. There's a lot to play with, and yeah, I mean, I think they'd be foolish not to do sequels to it.
Totally.
I don't know how it did at the box office.
I mean, as soon as it came out, I remember seeing mentions, like, I mean, the moment it came out, people were like, there's already a deal on the table for the sequel to this. Like, people got on board with this very quickly.
Yeah, so it's made worldwide $43 million, supposedly. And I doubt this was more than $10 million to make. I mean, that would be pretty intense. It's pretty, you know, it feels still very independent. Like
4.5 million was the budget.
Wow.
Oh, really? So yeah, I mean, it feels like a pretty small film. Like the only real budget you need is makeup. I mean,
And the makeup team
they didn't do any.
They did good.
Yeah, the makeup team killed it. Not only for like the demons, but also like the injury, you know, effects. So yeah, I mean, it's very successful. Okay, and let's skip to the ending, which is awesome. Like, very tragic. The ghosts are liars. They convince Mia like that everyone's basically out to get her and lying to her. So they eventually get like you're shown that Riley is kind of recovering. And he's getting better slowly, and Mia is descending into, you know, even more control of the demons because she can't just let go of this world because they're giving her what she wants, which is basically a line of communication to her mother, which probably actually isn't true. It's probably not actually her mother at all.
Okay.
And then she ends up stabbing her father. And then I pulled a clip of the very end right here. I'll show it so David can see it.
Like,
Okay, Paul Rudd.
And that's one of the demons.
That's Paul Rudd, right? On Conan?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like, in the end, like, Mia takes Riley out of the hospital, you know, as she's basically being controlled by these demons, and she's attempting to throw him into traffic. And
As you do.
And it's a really good scene, very well shot. And then in the end, you realize that Jade saves Riley just in time, and Mia goes ass over tea kettle into the freeway. And it's not clear if she got hit or not by the cars. But then it cuts to basically her being in this darkened hallway. Or no, she's like going through the hospital, and like the lights are turning off, and like she can see the others, but they can't, like they're not reacting to her or responding to her, and her dad's walking off, and so like
she sees her
eventually
dad
the lights
leaving
turn
the
off.
hospital like healed, and she sees Riley leaving
Yeah.
the hospital healed, and she's trying to talk, and it's kind of unclear. Like I was like, oh shit, she survived. Like, and then I'm
Right.
like, oh, actually.
Yeah, and like the lights keep turning off until she's in complete darkness, and then there's like a little light in the distance, and she walks up to it, and it's a candlelight, and then she sees a hand reaching out to her, and she grabs it, and then they say, "Talk to me," and she all of a sudden, like a gaggle of teenagers like gawking at her appear, and you're like, oh shit, she's on the other side now. She's one of the demons. So it's a really tragic, like just dreadful ending for Mia, but it's happy for everyone else. Like everyone else's story gets resolved. You know, Riley is healed and he's fine, and that family gets to live on, but Mia, you know, ruined her life. So like it's just a really great cap, and it's one of those feelings that you look for in a horror movie, to be like, yeah, I don't want to feel good. You know, it's not like The Conjuring where like, and then they're okay still. Everyone's okay.
I don't think
No
that's how The Conjuring
consequences.
ends. Is that how The Conjuring ends?
Isn't it? I can't remember.
Kind of.
How did this movie leave you feeling, Jordyn?
I felt good. I don't know. I was sad, obviously, that Mia just didn't make it. But I think they were tying into kids getting addicted to drugs. Definitely a big theme here. Can take you pretty quickly. I loved the shot, like when she is in the dark and the candle lights, and it's like the outline of her silhouette. Just a beautiful shot. And at first I was like, oh, it's the light at the end of the tunnel. Like I kind of pride myself on seeing where things are going, but I did not even fathom her being a part of the hand and that being the candle of someone inviting her to come talk to them. So I was pleasantly surprised at the way they did things. And again, just opens up to a world of possibilities for other movies, like actually being a franchise. I want to know the ghost stories for sure. Some of them, not all of them, but like that little kid especially. Were they playing a joke, or was it like a Bloody Mary sort of situation where little girls at a sleepover did this freaking hand, and you know, they're a part of it now.
Yeah. I mean, it's weird because it's very uncertain too, because you don't know whether the ghosts are even actual ghosts, if they're actually attached to someone. I guess it's implied that they are, since Mia is turned into one of them. But like some of them, I think the one that takes over Mia in the first scene was like this bloated corpse, which is obviously looked like someone that was found in a lake or something.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, Bryce, because I don't know if you noticed this, but when they were playing tricks, not all of the corpses like looked like they were underwater or had those water sounds. But when Mia was hearing or like seeing her mom, you were hearing the
there
water
was
sounds.
water sloshing sounds.
And the mom's like look sort of deteriorated over time and started to look like that initial vision that she saw, like the waterlogged, gross thing.
Yeah. So there's a little uncertainty, but there's definitely, some people that died and are the spirits, but there definitely seems to just be straight up malevolent, like demons that are taking advantage of the situation too. So, Yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting movie. It's like there's a lot to talk about and a lot like folded into the movie. It's only an hour and 35 minutes, so it packs a lot in. Definitely, you know, is another hit for A24. Like, I can't see anything really wrong with it. So yeah, I mean, what final recommendations? Who do you think would like this movie, Jordyn?
You brought up The Conjuring. Honestly, it reminded me of The Conjuring a little bit. Like the mom, the tie to the mom, the grief, and just the lore and the like experience of it all. Just reminded me of that a little bit. I think this one's for the young kids. Like I think back, if I would have saw this when I was a teenager, like it probably would have scared the shit out of me and made me less likely to fall victim to peer pressure at parties. Not that I did a lot, but it would probably just make me think twice. I know things aren't always that deep, but this is kind of deep for on that level, on the level of technology and friends and what we allow ourselves to do in the presence of others.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to say like this would be a really important film for preteens to see, while also having a scene where a kid is trying to squeeze his eyeball out and ramming his head into the corner of a table violently. Like, it's a little more violent than I would want it.
Making out with a dog.
Making out with a dog.
I think it was CGI.
We've all been there, you know, just desperate, young, horny.
Yeah.
Just been like,
we've all hit rock bottom when it comes to horniness.
Especially Jordyn.
So,
not us.
Yeah, I mean, I'd recommend people that like, I mean, any A24 fans, like the Get Out, you know.
What about fans of like Paranormal Activity?
It's not really a slow burn. That's the only thing. Like, it's not like it's weird because like I'd say like, yeah, if you like The Exorcist, this is another possession movie that just has that humanity layered into it as well. But the tone is it's like The Exorcist plus Evil Dead, you know?
The Exorcist Plus.
Yeah, The Exorcist Plus. So, like, I would definitely say, like, be prepared for some harder scenes.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
I'm pretty jaded, and I was literally, like, this was me in the theater. It was like, make it stop. Like, it was intense for me.
You know, the last time I had that feeling, and I think about it a lot, was Suspiria 2018.
Yeah.
Of just being like, I don't want to be here at all. I hate this. Like, I just hate everything about this.
I will say
so
they're
upsetting.
pretty quick, though. Like, it's like over fast. It's not constant gore and I don't know.
It's like the Goldilocks level of it, because like it doesn't dwell on it long enough for you to get acclimated to it and be like, oh, this is makeup and stuff. But it's not the point where it's like you barely catch a glimpse of it and you're filling it all in your head. It's like, no, they're definitely showing you plenty of it. So yeah, it's pretty intense, but it's a great movie with a heart and like tragedy in the center of it, which makes it compelling and like pushes it further than the premise.
Was it PG?
Which is really simple.
Was it PG-13?
No, it was R.
Was it R?
It was R. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Let's see. Okay, so let's move on to our bit. David, do you have the sound effect? Oh, here it is. Where we listen to our voicemail. It's called Horror Movie Whores.
What's the name of this bit? What's this bit
I just
called?
said it.
Oh.
Horror Movie Whores.
Well, yeah, but I just didn't catch like the intro of it.
Okay. Check back in, David.
Oh.
So this bit is horror movie whores, for those of you that didn't hear it. This is where we check our voicemail for people that call 682-253-4468. Jordyn just chatted. She said, I can't believe you guys didn't use any soprano whores. We have an alternate version with sopranos, trust me.
Okay, just making sure.
I should pull that up. It's been a while. Who was?
Filthy
So
whores.
this is from Sam from Indianapolis.
Hello, this is Sam from Indianapolis. I'm listening to your episode on The Village, and I just got to say, I watched this movie once, well, actually twice, but I watched this movie one time, and it made me so fucking angry that I actually kind of went back and kind of watched scene by scene, trying to find similar to like how Bryce is trying to find any like nuance or like nod to what was going on, and there is none. But I was trying to find where it ever got interesting, and I was unable to do that. I spent probably 3 or 4 hours combing over each scene, like what am I missing here that everybody likes so much about this stupid fucking movie? That's all I got. Talk to you guys later. Bye bye.
Wow. Shots
Fired.
Dude, you either like M. Night's style and his beat, or you just hate it. Where do you fall on that, Jordyn? What do you feel about M. Night?
I love M. Night. I liked The Village. Yes, there is this like frustration at the end when you're like, oh shit, I just wasted all that time being worried and scared, and I mean, I guess they're still a little scared, but I like it.
I mean, yeah. Like, here's the okay. Oh. I'm sorry. One of the most lauded horror movies of all time, The Birds. Oh, why did it happen? Oh, there's no fucking. It doesn't mention anywhere why or how. Are you gonna do that about The Birds? Stupid. Get out of here, Sam from Indianapolis. He's near you, Jordyn. I don't like that place.
Yeah, I mean they bag on M. Night for rehashing, the surprise twist ending, but they also want him to do the exact same thing that he did
Do
in
it again,
Sixth
though.
Sense.
You know what
which
I think it
was
is?
Scatter hints around.
Yeah. You know what I think it is? I think they're racist.
Okay, say more.
I don't have to. I just called them out on it. That's how it works. You just say it, and then they are, and then they have to defend themselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
They're racist against fake wood monsters.
No, against M. Night Shyamalan Ding Dong.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense then.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Did you guys watch
And
Servant?
another thing.
Oh.
Why do they even need...
What's that?
I was gonna.
I did not.
If you watch
I
Servant
missed that
on
one.
Apple TV, I think that's his, isn't
Is
it?
that what is that?
Yeah, it's M. Night.
Yeah,
I've been suggested it.
I think I suggested it to you, Bryce.
Did you?
Yeah, it's very good.
Is it good?
Yeah, it's not what you expect. Like, starts off, a lady wants to. Her and her husband want to hire a nanny, and they have a baby. But then you see the husband slamming the baby around. It's a doll, and she's actually grieving. So they hire this nanny to take care of this coping grief baby. And
What?
the baby comes alive. So that's all I'm gonna say.
Wow, that's wild.
I
It
don't
is-
like this.
It's good. Rupert Grint is one of the main characters.
Did you see The Visit?
Yes,
Or
I
The
watched The Visit
Visitors?
a couple weeks ago.
Visit. Oh, one of the best.
I really enjoy it. It's unnerving.
Oh, yeah. Oh, dude, the most unnerving part about that is that's just old people.
Yeah.
That's, dude, there's so, oh my God. My cousin used to work, in a geriatric, the geriatric level on the hospital. She's a nurse. And she was like, dude, the sundowners is a thing. I was like, what's sundowners? And she's like, oh, you know, when the light starts changing because the sun goes down, certain percentage of old people just fucking lose their mind and are not the same person, and then come to in the morning. Like,
Terrifying.
what happened? Yeah, fucking horrifying shit. Ugh.
Yeah, I think my thing with M. Night is he's a great ideas guy. Like, his ideas are solid. His writing has fallen off. Like, the dialogue is in his recent movies that I've seen is absolutely abysmal.
How's the dialogue in your movies, your recent movies, Bryce?
You'll never know. I'll never show you the movies.
You got that right.
And he is a good director. Like, the thing about him is why he keeps getting to make movies is that he brings in movies on time, under budget. Like, he's a good workhorse director. So, like, I wish he could supply ideas to a really good writer, have them write it, and then he could direct it, you know? But, like, it's the same thing with, like, George Lucas. It's like, oh, man, just it's always better if you don't write it.
Don't touch it.
Or direct it. Like, yeah. Sam calls back to finish his thought.
And another thing, why do they even need to tell these people that have no idea about modern society that the year is 1897? That makes no sense. They've got nothing to compare it by. It could just be 1997 for all they know. I hate this movie.
He hates it.
True. Next.
I'm back. It's the beast from the Northeast.
Oh.
It has certainly been a while. I don't have a question or anything to say about any specific episode. I just was curious when the last time you guys went to a drive-in movie theater was. And if you guys even like those, or if they're even around your area. I doubt that they're on the island, David, but I could be wrong. Anyways, hope to call in a little bit more often going forward, like I used to. And I enjoy Babyface Billy whenever he calls in. I just listened to the episode where he did that. And I am Team Babyface Billy. Anyways, all right. Until next time. See you later.
Yeah, when was the last time you were at a, one of those drive-ins?
I haven't been in a drive-in since I was probably 13, but I do know there's one that exists in Newburgh, like, that's still around. And then every once in a while there's, like, events, like, especially during COVID, up at the fair, they had, like, a drive-in thing. Probably in October. It's like a seasonal thing, the Cinema of Horrors drive-in. Remember when we almost got involved in that and then didn't care enough to pursue it?
Yeah. Well, that was a weird thing. Yeah, it's a good question. There is actually the remnants of a drive-in maybe 20 miles away from us on the mainland, not one here on the island. But yeah, you definitely drive past it on your way out here. The last drive-in movie theater I went to was for Terminator 3, and it was the West Wind Solano Drive-In in Martinez, California. And it still exists in Martinez, which is, or I guess in Concord, which is where a lot of my family hails from. So there you go. That was the last time I went to a drive-in. I don't even know when Terminator 3 came out, but it was probably 2005 or something like that. Terminator 3. Let's see. What year? Wow, 2003. Okay, so there you go. It was 20 years ago. I was just graduating high school.
How about you, Jordan? Any drive-in movie theater experiences?
Yeah. First of all, I'll have to say Terminator 2 is my favorite movie of all time. So good.
Oh, stop it.
Last drive-in movie I saw was The Dark Knight at a little drive-in in Cuba, Missouri. and I don't know that I don't think it's still open, but I do remember just being very frustrated because I wanted to watch the movie and I went with a bunch of friends and I couldn't really hear. Like, the little audio boxes weren't really the best quality. But yeah, I had to watch it again in an actual theater. I would like to have a drive-in. Actually, I'm kind of getting a little nervous. It seems like COVID rates are rising where I am, and I don't know. I think a drive-in done right is a decent idea. I like being away from people. Also, people, I got pissed last night at the theater. People do not know how to act in the theater. They're loud and obnoxious and just having full conversations. I can't handle it.
Yeah. No.
Yeah, there's benefits to the drive-in theater, like, and downsides. Downside is definitely the audio sucks, because either it's like the audio box that's like a mono speaker that sounds like it's being communicated through a tin can, or it's like
A radio
over the air with your radio, which is also usually not that great. But, you know, drive-in theater is the best place to, like, drop a digit or, you know, get a handy, you know, you know, versus a theater. I mean, isn't that why drive-in theaters exist, is, like, so you can, like, have your own little world where you just say, like, oh, people aren't around, we can just make out and fool around in a car.
There's a weird rule where if you're in a car, you just believe you're miles away from other people. I gotta say,
you're
though,
literally 9 feet away from another person, but like you could yell at them like you're going to murder them. But if you like take away that window pane, all of a sudden you're like, well, we can make this work.
I gotta say though, I when Jordyn was mentioning that she saw the last time she was at a drive-in was at a place called Cuba, Missouri. I started looking at Missouri in order to find Cuba, which is another place. And I got to say, this is a real problem with Missouri that Missouri seems to have now that I'm looking at the map. There's lots of places that just are incredibly unoriginally named. For example, let's start with the biggest offender, Kansas City. And then it goes, then there's Washington, there's Salem, there's California, Missouri, there's Piedmont, which is a very big town in California. Springfield, Salem. Like, there's just a never-ending atrocity. Centralia, Mexico.
I live in Washington,
Mexico?
Missouri. I live in Washington, the second place you named. But I grew up in Belle, Missouri. Belle. Beautiful in
I
French.
see it.
And I
Right next to Bland.
I went to junior high in Bland, Missouri.
Oh shit, girl. That's pretty bland.
So wait, there's a Belle and Belleville?
I guess so. Belleville?
Wow.
Illinois. Is there a Belleville, Missouri?
Oh, is that in Illinois? Okay.
Bland, I assume, hasn't changed very much since I don't know how long it's been since you went to high school there, but
I went to junior high there. Just junior high.
Oh, my. Sorry.
Yeah, it hasn't changed a lot.
I mean, we do have boring Oregon, so I mean, you know, people in glass houses.
I don't live in that terrible state.
All right, moving on. Let's hear from one of our favorites.
Hey, it's Robert the Farter. So I just know that you guys are big music fans, Bryce and David, and I am too. I listen to a lot of 80s music. But anyways, I was listening to Phil Collins' catalog, and I've heard it before, but going back, his first 4 albums are so good. So, I mean, you probably have heard them because, yeah, they've been out for a while, but if you haven't, you should listen to them. And I was also listening to Billy Ocean's catalog, which is also really good. Anyways, it's Robert the Farter.
Yeah,
Okay. Well, thanks for the update, Robert. Yes, Phil Collins is good.
Is he? Have you listened to those albums, Bryce? I haven't.
Well, his first album, I mean, "In the Air Tonight" is probably the most influential song of the '80s.
The most influential song of the '80s. The most?
It could be. A case could be made for it.
Okay. What do you think, Jordyn? Have you listened to Phil Collins?
I've listened to Phil Collins, but not recently. But yeah, I get it. Phil Collins is a classic. I don't know. It's really fun being a parent and introducing your kids to cool music, especially like, God, I don't know if you have a lot of K-pop fans that listen to this, but the K-pop fans are like very, what's the word I'm looking for here? Passionate about it being the best music. So I'm up against. I've got
Isn't
a
it kind of generic pop?
high hill to climb. Yes, but high hill to climb to like prove to my oldest that like there's good music out there. Now listen to some Talking Heads, please.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, all my music that I love is bummer music, so it's hard to convince people to be like, no, don't listen to things that make you feel good. Listen to Radiohead.
Radiohead's great. I've been on a Radiohead kick
great.
lately.
But it's definitely, when you talk to people that don't listen to it, they're like, this is a bummer. Like, this just sounds like someone whining and complaining all the time. And I'm like, okay, good point, but
those people need to listen to Karma Police and realize what goes around is coming around to them. Because
Yeah,
I know.
You just say, yeah, but have you seen the unfortunate face of Thomas York? It all snaps into. Yeah, no.
Yeah. No, I mean, I had an 80s kick. I was trying to get into Prince. Still trying to figure out why Prince is the most important, musical artist. And then getting a little glimpse of, like, that. And some of the songs are great, but the ones that are, like, popular, I'm like...
Yeah, it's just like, what?
I'm just not that into it.
Yeah, it's a much more fun time to listen to Michael Jackson. Like,
right.
You want the good, fun version of Prince? Listen to Michael Jackson. Like,
right.
It's fucking incredible. You'll love it.
agreed.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. Another caller. Oh, this might be... We might have another Robert the Farter on our hands. This kid is young.
Hey, Bryce. Hey, David. Long-time listener, first-time caller. I'm 19. I'm from Las Vegas. I've been wanting to call you guys for a long time now. Just never really had the time with work and everything going on. But after I listened to you guys'
Okay, we're all busy. All right, I don't want to hear excuses for why you're not calling in.
Don't berate him. It's his first time.
view of the old way, I took a deep listen into what David had to say about him stopping the whole watching horror movie shit and all that, And so I had a question for him on whether or not it's been helping him, or if it feels like he's kind of the same way he was, or if he feels like he'll ever be able to go back to watching horror movies or anything like that. Because I feel like I'm starting to feel the same kind of way as he is. Like I'm a big horror movie fan. That's why I love listening to you guys' podcasts and all. But lately, it's just been getting harder and harder for me to listen and watch these different movies and shit. Like, I just watched Hostel and almost couldn't handle that. I'm like, this is like pussy shit. Like, I've seen twice as worse, and I can't even handle a little bit of eyeball trauma. Like, what the fuck, man? And so, yeah, it's just getting too much for me. And I'm kind of scared because watching movies is like one of my favorite things, and I don't want to have to stop doing that because I want to feel better. Because sometimes the only time I feel better is when I'm watching the movies that I like. So, anyway, if you guys have any advice on that, that'd be sweet. Anyway, I love you guys' podcast. Have a great one. I'll talk to you guys later.
Yeah, I don't think he said his name. But hey, thanks for calling in. And yeah, to answer your question, yeah, I just wasn't helping my head. You know, I have some tough times around, kind of centering around the night and and you know, just kind of childhood stuff. And so I kind of just identified that horror movies were, especially like violent ones, but also just you know, the tension that builds. You know, you get done with the movie at 11 o'clock at night and then you're fucking strung up. You're like, you know, like ready to go. And yeah, it has helped a lot, giving that up. I have a little bit of an addictive personality, not a real addictive personality. So, you know, I have that in the back of my head all the time. And fortunately, I also have a pretty strong willpower. And so I quit things sometimes, you know, and then I just see how long it'll go. And it doesn't mean that it has to be forever. Some things I hope I've quit forever, like drinking, you know, like I just don't want to do that anymore just because I just feel like shit and I don't see the upside anymore, you know. But with this, I think sometimes I'll have moments where I'm like, oh, that was a good movie. I really like to go back to that. And there's nothing saying I can't, you know, I can do that if I want to. But, you know, where I was I was just worried about being a good parent to my kids. And I felt like horror movies was kind of standing in the way of that a little bit, if that makes any sense. So, you know, if you want to watch a movie, go ahead and watch it. But maybe just do it with with a little bit of a magnifying glass over how you feel throughout, how you feel after, and if you think it had a positive effect on you. And if it doesn't, take that into account and, you know, change accordingly or don't, you know? Like, it's all a personal preference thing.
Yeah, it's a very much you do you thing. I'll tell you though, like, it's made me think about my relationship with horror movies or with the media of like, is this good for me? You know, because like I take the position of like, you know, downer media or like just like dark stuff. Like when I think of like, is this good or not? I just see like my mom in my head being like, it's not good. It's an evil influence and it's going to affect you. You're inviting in the spirit of the devil. And I'm like, well, that's not true. So I can do what I want. But also like, yeah, I'm prone to depression is an understatement of the year. Like I've got mental health things, anxiety, depression that like it feels therapeutic to watch stuff that's kind of matching in the tone of what's always going on in my head. But then also like, is it helping though?
Yeah.
You know, is it actually going to improve it?
That was a big part of it was seeing like, oh, but I like this feeling of stroking the sadness, you know? And then I realized, oh, well, of course you do. That's the sadness inside you getting, you know, giving you endorphins. It doesn't mean it's a good feeling. It just means you like it. And, you know, there's plenty of things that I like that aren't good for me, you know? So, I don't know.
I mean, it's weird. It's like I have visions of myself like in the middle of a birthday party with balloons and a clown, and I just look miserable and disconnected to myself. And like, I don't want to be here. And then I look in like sitting in a darkened movie theater with a horrible trauma being inflicted in my eyes. I'm like, great. And I'm like, well, what does that say about me? Like, should I be seeking out more happiness and joy in things that should be causing happiness and joy? That's a good question. But you know, to each his own. You do you is my best advice.
Yeah, what do you think, Jordyn?
Totally an advocate of giving your feelings the attention that they deserve, and being mindful of how certain things are making you feel. This September will be 2 years that I haven't had alcohol. And David, I feel like I identify with what you said. Like, I have a very addictive personality. If I find something I like, I want to do it a lot. Like, right now it's reading. I'm reading a shit ton of books. It's like 65 so far this year. And with anything,
you gotta quit that shit.
I know, but with anything though, it's just it's kind of that personality trait of just like wanting a lot of whatever I'm enjoying at the moment. And with scary movies, I've watched them since I was a kid, and I think there's like a nostalgia piece of it. Just thinking back of the times watching it with my granny, and sure, like the content can be a little abrupt at times, or unnerving, or just not very wholesome. But I think it's weighing out, you know, the adrenaline rush that I get from watching these things and knowing that I can go into something else. For me, it works. But with that being said, I get one, not wanting to subject yourself to those things, like those mindsets, putting yourself in that state. And I also love the idea of testing it out and seeing what changes. So I like this voicemail. I think it's for a 19-year-old to be wondering about this. Feels like a very mature thing to call out and wonder about. So good luck on that journey. But yeah.
And I'm sorry to interrupt. There's just no wrong answer here. You know, there's just what's right for you. You know, it's like, oh, if I quit horror movies, it's like, well, who said you got to quit? You know, no one said you got to quit. But if, you know, I watched fucking almost 5 years of horror movies nonstop, you know, and it wasn't just the reviews you hear on this. And it's not like I wasn't watching horror movies before that. Like I loved horror movies my whole life. So I've watched a lot of them. And, you know, I started seeing a connection somehow over thousands of movies. I was like, wait a minute, you know, something's happening here. And, you know, so at some point, you know, if you feel like giving it a shot of putting something maybe different on, you know, try the new Dungeons and Dragons movie out and see if it isn't fun in a different way. It'll be fun, but it'll be in a different kind of way. So I don't know.
Also, I just gotta thank Zoloft as well. Like, disclaimer, also very prone to anxiety and depression. But my doctor's helping me with that, so maybe that's why I stay on the path that I'm on with horror films. Yeah.
Next call. What we got here? Oh, you're muted, Bryce.
I'm muted. Alternative, like, you could turn to action movies and then see, like, death and destruction and feel nothing, you know? And then, like, you can go down that path. I mean, it's so weird that, like, I like the fact that horror movies make you feel bad about the bad things that are happening versus, like, action movies where it's like, ha-ha! You just gloss over it that someone got murdered.
I gotta say, I tried watching a couple action movies that, you know, that recently that where I was like, I had never seen Lethal Weapon before. And a few others. And so I went to those and it didn't make me feel good. You know, it was roughly the same feeling watching somebody get shot. I was like, I don't love that. You know?
Yeah, Lethal Weapon goes a little hard though. I mean, it does feel a little more realistic than, like, you know, True Lies or something.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, anything with Mel Gibson in it's a little hard.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we got 2 more calls, and then we'll be all caught up, finally.
Wow.
Hey, fellas. This is Dino Burhant from Richmond, Virginia. Got a couple questions. Right, this one's for Bryce.
That's me.
I'm curious about your relationship with in the Mormon Church and why you decided to leave. Just curious. I lived in Utah for 5 years, mostly in Moab, but I did a stint in Salt Lake City, and I was single at the time, and so I was doing some Tindering, and I started going on some really weird dates where, there was not a lot of commitment to one thing, but total commitment to another. So, the first date would want to sleep over on the first date, but, no hanky-panky, but some stuff. And then I learned about soaking and docking, which I never participated in. But it'd be really fun if you could explain to the audience what soaking and docking is. Eventually left Utah. Beautiful state, but, curious about learning more about why you decided to leave. Then I got a question for David. David, I would love to hear if you can offer us an update on how things are going with your transition. Just really curious how it's going for you, and just want to send you love and support. But it'd be cool to hear how that's going. So, all right, guys, keep it going. Love you.
I'll answer first. It's weird. I did the transition, and then I've been detransitioning for a while now. So thanks for asking. I wouldn't be surprised.
This is the first time hearing of it.
I know. Well, it's been, everything's not everyone's business all the time,
Okay.
So,
it's true.
it's fortunately for me, I didn't make any, rash decisions. And all my unit is still intact. So we're,
okay.
But who's to say that I won't, come on, it's a fluid thing. So, but Bryce, what about you in the Mormon Church? Let's hear about soaking and docking here.
I think I've probably talked about it in the past episode, but like the Cliff's Notes version, which I don't know if is a timely reference or not. Does Cliff Notes exist anymore? The Spark Notes AI version is.
Anybody here ever soaked or docked? Anybody been docked? What is that fucking? What is docking? I know what soaking is.
I had to look up docking.
The process of.
No, docking, according to the Urban Dictionary, is a very intimate and intense sexual act performed by two uncircumcised men.
Oh,
One guy pulls his foreskin back and holds it while guy 2 stretches his open and outward as far as possible over the shaft of guy 1's penis. So it's like, I mean, don't knock it till you try it, I guess.
I was on a podcast today, kids.
Soaking is supposedly the act of two Mormon kids, usually in BYU, apparently, where you just put it in, but you don't move. You just sit there with it inserted, and that
put what in?
Your penis into a vagina, and you just sit there and you don't move, or else that's considered sex, and that's evil.
But isn't the process of this movement?
Okay, here's the thing. As an observer, it's wild how this has spread and people believe it, and like young members of the church even say they do it on social media or have heard that it was done.
Are you calling them a liar?
They're all liars. No one has ever or will do this. As someone from the church and understands the culture of BYU and the church, it's not a culture of figuring out loopholes. The leadership has closed the loopholes.
We leave that to the Catholics.
Yeah, it's definitely no one has ever done that.
No one has ever done that. I did that this morning.
Well, the extension of it is.
Wait,
so
I want to hear
this is where it
Jordyn's
gets
question.
wild.
Hang on, I want to hear.
Hold on, before we get there, it's extended past soaking, and now the
is jumping on that.
The true theory is you get a a friend to jump on the bed.
Oops,
And I think they have a word for that.
Oops.
Yeah.
What? No, this just feels like the litter box thing. Like the litter boxes at the school. Like
Right,
that
yeah.
is not happening. That's not happening.
Wait.
You ever heard about that? The litter boxes at the school? Like
Yeah, the idea that, well, now since we've accepted trans kids into school and like are bending over backwards around identity, the people that identify as cats, you know, we have to legally provide a litter box for them. And everyone says, like, I heard the state over there was a school that added a litter box. It's never ever happened.
it's not.
And it's crazy that people.
Well,
will
listen,
believe
with
it.
my girls, you could use a litter box in the classroom, so trust me on that.
It's just like the latest, you know, freak out thing.
No, yeah.
I find it offensive.
Soaking is not a real thing. Like anyone, there's no Mormon that would think like, yeah, this passes muster. Like,
Have you
I
heard
won't
of
get in trouble
soaking
for
before this, Jordyn, or is this a new thing?
No, absolutely not.
You had not.
I hadn't.
Wow. We're sitting over here thinking everybody just knows all about soaking.
Like in terms of talking about Mormons on social media, it's like soaking has replaced polygamy in the zeitgeist of talking about Mormons. Like,
I'm a
it used
little
to be like, I don't know anything about Mormons except that they used to be, or that they're polygamous and have multiple wives. Now it's like, I don't know anything about Mormons, but I heard about soaking, and that's crazy.
I'm a little confused as to how this guy said soaking and docking in the same sentence. Like he's like, you know, a lot of hanging out with Mormons, this soaking stuff. And I'm like, and then he's like docking, and I'm like, what? And then I learned what docking is, and it's like, that's not Mormon. Is that just a Salt Lake City thing, or was there a scene over there? Jesus. Fucking.
Yeah. Anyways, the short version of me leaving the church is like I
got tired.
I just didn't believe anymore, and it kept going on the path of.
Didn't believe what?
I mean, I don't want to go into it. It's too long of a story, but I mean, I just lost my belief, like all the foundational things around, like, I mean, the thing that the Mormon Church does is they have a very consistent structure around, like, if you believe in this, then that means this is true, and then this is true, and then this is true. Like, so if you have something that you actually believe on, you can latch onto it and kind of accept things that you have doubts about, or at least that's like what they encourage you to do. And a lot of those things like kind of fall apart when you really dig into, you know, the reality of it. But also just like seeing policies hurt people that I like, and have them just double down on the super conservative stuff, and like not really adjusting to. Yeah, I mean, I learned here's the two things that really affected my perspective was, like, number one, just learning about dynamics of conservative cultures. Like I had some HR classes in my MBA program that really talked about, like, here are like the different dynamics of different cultures and how they play out. And one of them was like, yeah, if you're in a super conservative culture, they're lagging on, you know, social progress and stuff. Eventually they get there, but they lag on it because, I mean, it's in the name. They want to conserve the status quo, basically. And I was seeing that in the church. It's like, oh, obviously they've changed over time. And then, but they say like, oh, this has always been the way, or like it's being led by God, all these changes, and we're just waiting until we get the go ahead. But it always seems to be in line with where the culture is going, just as a lagging indicator. And then just reading 1984 and being like, oh, this is my life. This is like exactly how this works, is like how you change. I mean, it's just about gaslighting. You change history and then you rewrite history and say, oh, it was never that way. Like, even though like I remember exactly what I was taught when I was a kid and how it's changed over time. And they're like, no, we never taught that. I'm like, okay, so I'm out. I mean, I didn't take it lightly. It took a long time, and I stayed longer than I thought I would have, to be honest, in retrospect. But yeah, it's not for me. And he calls back and has some more. Let's hear more from Dino Bear.
Hey guys, it's Dino Bearhand again from Richmond, Virginia. I was re-listening to the Exorcist episode from way back. I grew up not, knowing about this movie, but I don't know what got into me, but I watched it and then immediately watched the true sequel, Exorcist 3, aka Legion, and got just so enthralled by this story, specifically Exorcist 3 Legion. The atmosphere in that movie it's so wonderful. It's like a film noir, and the detective Kinderman, played by George C. Scott. I can't get it out of my head. It's so like histrionic and some might say it's like overacting, but I just thought it was just so fantastic. It was going deeper into my obsession with the story. I ended up reading The Exorcist, which was very, very close, a very, very close adaptation. The movie was a close adaptation of the book. It was fantastic. I would say my only gripe, and it really wasn't explained in the book, is when Reagan is, starting. She's obviously playing with that Ouija board, and that's where Pazuzu comes through or reaches her. But I'm not really satisfied with like how Pazuzu comes from the Middle East all the way to Washington D.C. And then but otherwise, I'm reading Legion right now, and it's just wonderful. So I wonder if you guys have seen Exorcist 3 Legion. All right, take it easy. Bye.
Yeah, I didn't even know it had the subtitle of Legion. Yeah, Exorcist 3 is fantastic. I rewatched it a couple of years ago, and it's a different movie than The Exorcist, but very, very well made, and like, it's more, like you said, like more of a film noir, like a detective movie, and just a real good direction to go with it. I still haven't seen Heretic, The Exorcist 2. I hear that's pretty wild and like just a weird, like almost sci-fi non sequitur.
See, like I kind of want to watch those, I kind of do want to watch 2 and 3 because it feels like it would just be bonkers,
Yeah, everything else. I mean, 3 is not bonkers. 3 is a really good movie. It has like one of the coolest scenes in terms of a jump scare of any movie, any horror movie ever. And then there's a couple like prequels. I think there's at least 2 prequels. One was written by the original author, and one wasn't, and they were horrible. I think I've seen both, and I don't remember anything about them. I think they were super boring. I also read The Exorcist, the book, and yeah, it is very close, and it's I think the only thing different between the book and the movie is I think the mom's character is very different from the book, like in terms of like her characterization. In the book is a little more flighty, a little more vain, and just in general less fleshed out than the movie. Like Ellen Burstyn brings so much to that role in that movie. It just made me appreciate her even more. Jordyn, have you read The Exorcist or Legion?
No, I haven't, but I think I know what I'm doing tonight. I want to see the third one.
Have you seen the second one?
I haven't. I don't think so. I was just
Yeah,
looking them up.
I know.
I saw the preview of the remake, and it looks awful. It looks really bad. I'm a little scared about it. And then it seems like they're bringing in Ellen Burstyn. They're trying to tie it to the original and bring in Ellen Burstyn. And Ellen Burstyn's like in the preview just looks like it's the generic remake character of like, I've seen some shit. You don't want to mess with this, and then just doesn't have any actual connective tissue to the character in the original. But yeah, I'm a little skeptical if that's going to be worth seeing.
They both sit in the same realm in my head as the Poltergeist sequels, where I'm like, yeah, I think I should watch those. I think I should watch the Exorcist sequels and the Poltergeist sequels just because,
I mean, Poltergeist sequels, I'll say, like, they're of varying quality and definitely lower quality than the first, but they're still really good. Like, in terms of, like, the effects part of it and, like, the actual, scary part of it. It's like they got some great stuff in those Poltergeist sequels. Okay, well, that is that for horror movie.
Sure, busted horrors and junkies.
Because Christ was saying that we're all...
Oh, this is a shitty one.
Ah, Bryce. No! Cut that out, please.
You little hoa.
But all this over some dead hooah.
Hey, she was a hoa.
Mama's a hooah.
Hooah. Fart, please cut out. Please cut out that last bit, please, or else we're gonna get a strike.
All right. Well, thanks so much, Jordyn, for coming on. Hope you had a good time.
I had a blast.
Yeah, thank you very much.
This was fun.
And yeah, thanks everyone for listening. Go check out our Patreon. Go check out all the things. If you want to leave a voicemail, call 682-253-4468. Until next time, we'll see you on the flip flop.
Good day, sir. Good day, sir. You lose. You get nothing.
Is that me? Yes, it is.
I just took a stroll through the scraggly woods.
He had no face.
Horror.
Wow, that didn't sound good.